Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me in the Locker Room today. I'm Alan Locher. One Life to Live premiered on July 15th, 1968, and went off the air 9 years ago this month. Created by the legendary Agnes Nixon, the series was the first daytime drama to primarily feature ethnically and socioeconomically diverse characters and consistently emphasized social issues. The show was 30 minutes long when it debuted and moved to 1 hour 45 years ago on January 16th, 1978. My next two guests were one of the most popular couples to hit Llaneview, and I know many fans were devastated when the character of Nash died in 2008. Please welcome to the Locker Room, Forbes March and Bree Williamson. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah.
So let's go back in time. Do you remember? So Bree, you replaced Erin, right? Is that correct? What do you remember learning about this part when it came up and your audition and screen? Did you have to screen test with someone?
I did. So my journey with One Life's, I think that I originally auditioned for the character of Jen Rappaport, and I sent in my tape from Toronto, Canada. And then it was all like, and it moved very quickly, and it was like, she's going to screen test and blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it just went away. And at that time I was like, not like, I had done a couple of jobs in Canada, but I had no idea the process of what a screen test was or anything. I didn't know anything. I was a student at University of Toronto, and I was like, I don't know, I guess you're going to fly me there. I'm going. And then it all went away. Yeah. And then it all went away.
To New York? I'm going.
Yeah. And then around 3 years later, they kind of like, they checked in with my agent again and was like, or were like, is she still around? And they're like, yeah. And they said, just get her to make a quick tape and chatting about herself. There wasn't any scene. And then from that tape, I got a screen test. I flew down, not really knowing, like, I didn't know what a big deal it was, or like, I knew it was going to be a big deal if I was to move to New York, but I didn't know that Erin's role, I didn't know anything. Really, that's just
you
start.
You were watching One Life to Live at that time.
I did watch a couple episodes, and I'll tell you which one in a second because it was an interesting one. And then so I get there and I screen test with Nathaniel Marston, actually. So it was really sweet.
I worked with Nathaniel. I worked with him on As the World Turns.
Yeah, he was really sweet, and he was really generous and lovely during the audition because he actually flubbed a line and was like horrified that he flubbed a line during my screen test, and but was really sweet. And then it finished, and I was walking around New York afterwards, and I was like, I don't know whether to enjoy it here or to not enjoy it here because I don't know whether I'm moving. I was 23 years old. I was like, who knows where my life is going to go. And then I think I flew home the next day or that day, I can't remember. And then 2 days later they hired me, and then that was it. And I moved.
Any hesitation?
Oh God, no. I was 23. These guys were going to pay me to move and
live in the Big Apple.
Yeah, no, there was none. Although acting wasn't what I thought I was going to do at the time with my life. But I was like, when you're 23 and somebody gives you that opportunity, you take it. So
for sure.
One of the only episodes I saw of One Life before was the Switch episode. It was like long before, where like Roger and Erika switched, and where they switched characters. So like Roger was dressed up like Vicky, and Vicky was dressed up like Todd, and it was like a fan episode. And I was watching it, and I was like, this show seems like these people seem like they're having fun. What a cool job! And then years later, I was on it with them.
That's awesome. And working with them.
Yeah.
And what about you, Forbes? What do you remember about learning about the character of Nash?
What I remember about learning about the character of Nash, I didn't really get a character description, and the audition was very brief. I understood that I was going to be. I'd been on a soap before. I understood that I was going to be a foil for 6 weeks. I was going to be a relationship foil. This is awesome. I was living in LA at the time. I'll go to New York. I'll spend 6 weeks having some fun working on a soap, and then come back to LA. I had no idea what was going to come of the part. But it was neat. I had this character that I wanted to play, and I went in to meet with the producer after the test, immediately after when I got the offer, and he had a bunch of writers in there or something. He said, "So how do you see the character, Forbes?" I said, "Well, there's this character I've been wanting to play," and I described this character to him. That was kind of a bad boy that needed a girl to kind of bring out the good side in him. That he was an orphan or something. That he had really great potential, but was really on the wrong path. And I had my little actor's book full of character-y background stuff, and they're all looking at me kind of funny. And then Frank Frank is a very, very distinct personality. He's like a modern producer type. There's these types that you meet in Hollywood. He kind of deadpan slides this character description across to me, and it's bullet points. And I read it and said, orphan, bad boy, girl. Like, what? And it was really neat.
Was your screen test with Bree? Did you screen test?
Yes, I did.
So it was always intended for you two to be together.
Yeah, I was a foil for Bree. I was to shake up the Jessica Antonio storyline.
I kissed a lot of frogs before I met this prince. So we tested a lot of Nashes. And then Forbes, he was the last screen test of the day. And this guy just comes swaggering in. He's like, "Hey, yeah, I'm Forbes, whatever. We do the screen test." He couldn't care less. He's like, "Yeah, whatever. I got a meeting after this. So let's just get this over with." And I was like, "Okay." And all of these other, Forbes that came in and auditioned were like, running lines with me and wanting to know. And I was like, "Oh, so I guess that's our guy." Okay, bye. I'll see you later, Nash.
Yeah, the bar is opening in 25 minutes, honey. TikTok,
Yeah. He's like,
over Peter across the street. Let's go.
So it was funny. I distinctly remember Forbes' screen test just coming in and being like, "Yeah, cool, let's do this." And I was like, "Okay."
Hey, here we go. Here we go. Forbes, is that your real name, Forbes March?
That's what my father tells me. Yeah.
It's actually I just was thinking about it here. It's like such a great soap name, like a soap character name. It would be, like somebody who lived in Llaneview.
My job after One Life, I decided I wanted to try my hand at producing, and that led me down this weird road. After about a year of trying to raise money and buying scripts, I got a call from someone I'd met asking me if I could help them with deal flow on an entertainment fund. And it didn't make any sense to me or to anybody who knows me. I mean, these guys were pretty big. They had earned the right to be there. And I was Forbes March, previously Nash Brennan from One Life to Live. It was 2 more years until I found out how I'd gotten into it. They had a couple of funds, and these guys were interested in those deals. And they didn't want to have anything to do with the entertainment fund. They didn't know anybody in entertainment, except there's one guy, Gavin McMillan, who's probably watching right now. Hey, Gav. He said, "Hey, I got a guy. I met him at this party a couple of weeks ago. His name is Forbes. Well, tell the boss man that we got Forbes, who manages his family money, and he can do the entertainment fund." The guy who actually represented the investor, which is like $1 billion, was told that they had a young man, Forbes March, who manages his family's money, the Forbes family money, and he can handle the entertainment fund. So that name has given me
It's given you some trouble. Do you guys remember your first day in Llaneview?
Yes. Yeah, at the boathouse. Oh my God, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was
on location?
What was your first day, Bree?
No, but Forbes, is that on location at the boathouse?
Yeah.
Oh wow, in Central Park.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a fun way to start.
Yeah, it's not like anything else we ever did, really.
That whole summer was pretty spectacular. I mean, we went from there out to the location on Long Island, the that private club, and then we had 4 months of doing a week's worth of episodes in one day every week for 4 months. We got to know each other trial by fire. We literally had between 55 and 75 pages of dialogue per day to do for
Wow.
4 months
I
we
think
worked together.
for like a year or two, I spent more time with Forbes than anybody else. I literally would wake up, go to work, spend all day with Forbes, and then we maybe have an event that we'd have to do. So then we'd go to an event, and then like we like went to Florida. It was
Super
like
Soap.
Beach. No, Super Soap, but Super Soap is like everybody's there.
Yeah.
So like you see everybody. So we would like, there was, it wasn't just the two of us, but all of our scenes, because it was Tess and Nash, there was nobody else in the scenes. It would just be like they'd have like Erika at the beginning of the day, and then Forbes and I were like the from lunch till like the end of the day some days, So, and there was nobody else really in our world. So it was just Forbes and I hanging out all day on set.
So they really invested in putting you two together.
They did. They invested a lot into Tess and Forbes, but I think we delivered.
I'd say, from what I've been reading about, from fans. So were you nervous on your first day? Do you remember, Bree?
My first day was, so I can't remember how it happened. I think that the schedule had changed over Christmas. So I think I had a first day and then I was scared. I was with Kamar and everything was really scary. And I had a big zit on my forehead and it was awful. Like it was like everything that could go wrong. I was like, oh my God. I was talking to Vicky on the phone and Kamar was there and there was a big train accident and we were doing our scenes and I didn't know anything. Like I was just like, I'm just going to hit my mark and say my line and hopefully be a little, a good actor while I do it. And then we went home for Christmas break. And then over Christmas break, the whole entire schedule changed, but I went home to Toronto. And my first day back had changed. So it was like the first day back. I think I started work on like a Thursday when originally I thought I was going to start work on a Monday. So they woke me up. So, the production office woke me up and was like, are you coming to dry rehearsal today? And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm in Toronto. You just woke me up. And I had to, because the after vacation was when I was actually going to move my whole life to New York. So I had to like get up, grab whatever clothes were by me, rush to the airport, fly to New York. And then I made it there. They moved my scenes to the end of the day and I made it to shoot my scenes after break. And it was very stressful. It was
I was going to say, how do you feel when you get that phone call? You freaked out?
My whole body went cold and like I was like I'll be right there. I don't know. Like it was terrifying. So I got there and then and that was it. And then my parents were wonderful and they put a whole bunch of my stuff in a car and drove it across the border for me a couple weeks later. And I lived at the Lucerne Hotel. Did you live there too, Forbes, for a bit? The Lucerne?
I did.
Yeah.
That's familiar. What street is that on?
Sorry, you both talk.
What street is Lucerne on? I've seen it. It's
the Upper West Side. I want to say it's on Broadway or it's on Columbus. I can't remember.
It's one of those really fabulous, really old rundown hotels that looks like it's going to be like the Ritz until you open the door. And even though it's 1,600 square feet,
looks like
hasn't been refurbished since it was originally built in 1920.
I have to be honest, I was thrilled. I was like, oh my God, my own hotel room? This is amazing. I come home and they clean up my stuff. It was like, I was like, they could have literally put me.
You never wanted to leave,
I was checking the thread count system.
I know. It was like, this is not Egyptian cotton.
Checking my contract, page 4.
Page 4. So who or what influenced you both on becoming actors? Forbes?
two things. One, my father is a very intense man. He's a
Psychology?
philosophy.
Philosophy. I knew it was something.
Yeah. And it's strange to see him react emotionally to stuff, because he often doesn't, or when he does, it's unpredictable. I saw him watching One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest when I was a young boy. When I was under 10, and he was leaning way forward, like studying it, holding his head like the thinking man. And he was obviously deeply affected by it. And I was really affected by how much a story could affect a person who isn't easily affected, especially my father. And that really stuck with me. It didn't really occur to me to be an actor at all until I was selling watches door to door in Vancouver. And I walked into an agency to sell a watch, and they asked me if I wanted to be an actor. And I said no. But then the rainy season came, and I called them back about that acting. Literally, I thought it was a job. Like, what are you offering? I had no idea how it worked. And they put me into a class, and this teacher, Dermot Henley, awesome guy, walked up to a wall, put a pin in the wall, and told us to go look for it. And I realized that I could do it. I could look for a pin that wasn't there. And it was so simple, but it was so exciting. I don't know how to describe it. When you find something that resonates for you, it just makes sense. And it made sense to me. It seemed like fun. And I ran home. I read the classic books, like 4 classic books that every actor has to read. I read them all in 2 days, and it all made sense. Everything leading up to that for me kind of made sense. I grew up in a really weird environment. I grew up in a very working class neighborhood, very multicultural. I was kind of the only white guy, not because they're all black. They were black, Chinese, Latino, me. It was weird. And it was very working class. But then I went home into this kind of academic environment, and I was always kind of playing the character. And when I found myself acting, it felt like the skill set that I'd been developing made sense and had a purpose. And the idea that I might be able to be a part of making what I had such a strong memory, making something that could affect people so profoundly was something I wanted to be a part of.
And for you, Bree?
My answer is not that beautiful.
I know what you were going to say. You were
money, baby.
You didn't think you wanted to act, or you just said that earlier. Acting wasn't on the top of the list.
It wasn't. I I grew up in Toronto, and so I began modeling when I was like young. My mom put us in it for a second, and then I started missing too much school, and then my mom pulled me out. But I was enjoying it, and she's like, "Listen, if you want to go back when you're older, you can." So the second I got my license, I signed up with an agent, and then started gently getting into doing some like modeling catalog work and like some guest stars and like commercial work. But because it was like this fun little hobby that I had, this little thing that I did on the side, and it wasn't ever like, it didn't eclipse anything else. It was just like, oh, it wasn't, I never thought, oh, I'm going to make this my career. It's just like, oh, this is cool. I can do this sometimes. So I went to U of T for psychology and women's studies were my a double major. And I was working at Planned Parenthood as a sexual health counselor. And I was like, okay, this feels good for me. And this is probably where I'm going to go with my life. I'm probably going to do something in like maybe social justice, probably psychology. And that's what I'm going to do, because that's kind of where my degree sat. And then I was like, and I'll act on the side to make money, because that's lucrative. And in Toronto, it was very lucrative. Like, to shoot all these American companies were coming to Canada and filming commercials. And in Canada, if you work the commercial scene for long enough, you're like their person that they call upon all the time. So that was me, because I had put my time in. And then One Life came. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll do this. So, I mean, acting was one of those things that I was good at. And I, took classes and stuff to get better, because as I was working, even in Toronto, things were being more demanded of me. And I was like, oh, I don't know how to do that. So I would take acting classes on the side. And even being in class felt good to me. I was like, oh, this is fun. I'm enjoying this part of acting too. I'm enjoying like, you know, playing and doing scene study and stuff. And then One Life came, and I had this amazing opportunity to be good enough to get the role of Jessica, and everybody was like okay with me. And I have to be honest, I learned a lot about how to be an actor on One Life.
Sure.
I remember, and it's so funny. So Kristen Alderson, in one of my first weeks working there, was my scene partner, and we had like 20 scenes together. And this, I think that she was like 9 or 10, and she came in and she had all of her lines down. And I was in no rhythm yet. I didn't know. And the jobs that I had before were like episodic television, where you do a scene, they set up the cameras, you have time to run lines, they light you, and then you do the scene. Well, that's not how it happens at soaps. It's like a multicam drama. You like do your lines and scenes, and let's like quick. So I blew it that day. I couldn't keep up. I was like, I didn't remember my lines, and it was I'm like actually even getting sweaty right now thinking about it.
Yeah.
It was the moment where people were like, did you know what you had gotten? Did you know what you were up for? I did that day. That day I was like, oh, this is what this is. I need to change what I'm doing right now. So Frank called me into his office at the end of the day, and he's like, so what happened? And I was like, I know, right? That was a nightmare. And that was not fun at all. I was shown up by like Kristen, just like, she was comforting me. I was like sweating and freaking out. And she's like, oh, it's okay. Don't worry. God, I love that girl. She's just amazing. But
who is this?
Kristen Alderson.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She was my partner when I like blew it on One Life. Yeah. She was comforting me. She was like 10 or something that day. And I was like, oh. So Frank was like, we're going to have to figure out something for you. So they actually hired someone for a week to run lines with me, because also, in fairness to me, when I walked in, I was a storyline, and like, that's just how it was. Like, there's no apologies. They were like, congratulations, here's a whole bunch of work that we're giving you, keep up. And I was like, what? So luckily everything worked out, and I learned how to swim. I didn't drown.
So interesting, because I was going to ask, you know, what do you think you learned the most there? But I mean, my God, so much.
I mean, I could give you a book. I could write you a book. I learned a lot, but and it was just a cool opportunity that I was able to kind of like weather that storm. And because they had because I was a core character, they didn't fire me. They kept me around and let me learn. So that was good.
Well, yeah, I mean, you were hired as a the star of the show's family, her daughter. So,
I know. I know. What were they thinking?
Well, from what I can tell from the fans, you did okay. So speaking of your mom and your dad, did you get to work with both Clint and Jerry, or just Jerry?
I worked with Clint very briefly. I think that I met him maybe a couple of times, but mostly Jerry. It was Jerry. Yeah. Jerry was my dad on the show.
Okay. Yeah. I worked with Jerry at Guiding Light. Love Jerry.
Yeah.
What did you learn from working with them? You know, Jerry and Erika.
I learned with Jerry because he came a little later. I remember he did a script reading with me for something else. And it's always weird to see a soap actor, or like not a soap actor, any actor that you're working with heavily on a job to another job and do like act in a different way. And he was amazing. And he was doing the read through. Even my husband and I were talking about it later, what a pro he was, because he would have a thought before every line that he was saying in the reading, like just like a pro, you know what I mean? Because it's a certain skill to do a table read and do it effectively and sell what you're doing in like a room with everybody sitting at a table. And he just executed
just reading the script. Yeah, just reading the script.
And that is really the tell of somebody who he knows what he's doing. He's a good actor. And it showed me that his like just calmness and demeanor and just like taking it seriously and thinking about it and then saying the line and like staying up to speed. He's incredible. Jerry also had like just he was just this calm, wonderful, sweet man all the time. You know what I mean? Like you go in every day, Jerry gave me a hug, and he was always like calm and wonderful and sweet and giving and engaging, like all the time. The time. So yeah, that was him.
Forbes, I know you've done a few soaps. Where One Life was where in your soap job?
It was smack dab in the middle, but it's the only one I really think of. I did All My Children, which was
Scott. You played Scott, right?
Scott Chandler, and that very much like what Bree just described. It was very challenging. I mean, I had studied for a while. I thought I was ready. I went out for a couple of auditions. Went out and started auditioning. I don't want to sound like went out and got the job. Started auditioning, got the job, thought I was ready, discovered very quickly that what you do on set is not the same as what you do in a classroom. I don't even know that the two really relate very much at all. The classroom will teach you the vernacular, but you don't learn the actual craft until you're doing it. The challenge for people like Bree and I is very often your one of your first jobs will be a very big job. So you're learning in front of 5 million people. The mistake that other actors might make if they're working on off Broadway and off Broadway, maybe on a touring musical where they've got the same script every day that they're performing, their learning curve, ours is much steeper, is much rockier, and it's in front of 5 million people with a really big paycheck, depending on your ability to pull it off. It's a lot of pressure. And some people can pull it off like Bree did, and some people can't, like me. I lasted I don't know how long I lasted on All My Children, but I mean, I learned a lot. I very much appreciate the experience, but I'm not particularly proud of the work that I did.
Well, it is, sometimes it is a learning experience. I mean, but, and just like Bree had Jerry Verdorn, you had David Canary.
I did. And
I mean,
that was pretty awesome. I also had Jerry Verdorn. He was my roommate at One Life.
Oh, I love that. Get out.
That was vanilla and Oreo. Except not so much. It's kind of weird. Got along really well. He's a great guy. But David was great. He spent a couple hours a day with me, coaching me.
Oh, I love that.
He was a really great guy.
I'm going to send him this link after. I'm going to email him. But what was David? What was that intimidating for you? Did you know who David was going in there?
I don't do intimidation. No.
Good for you.
Awesome. I just, I'd seen him on the cowboy thing when I was a kid, and the idea that I had that guy here in front of me, I wasn't gonna shy off into the corner. I was gonna ask him every question I could come up with until he kicked me out of his dressing room. Every day for like a year and a half. Just picked his mind and kicked me out.
I love that.
Anyway, after like an hour and a half, he'd be like, okay, it's been 90 minutes. I think I have to practice my singing now. I'll see you on set. And I'd leave. And then I'd come back the next day and wait till he kicked me out again.
So funny.
He was fantastic. He wasn't just a good acting coach. He's just an extraordinary man. He was kind of a father figure to me during an interesting time. I was having my first child. I was changing careers. I had a lot going on. And he was a good man. He was there for me.
Oh, that's awesome. Love hearing stories like that. And Bree, fans were just asking, Michael was asking about Erika Slezak. Was that intimidating? I mean, that's another, that, she basically was there from day one.
Erika did this really wonderful thing for me because Erika, had Erin as her daughter since she was a baby, and then they grew up together. And, when I first got hired, there was after I settled in, there was always talk about like, and I never really felt this way. To be honest, I was just happy for the job. I didn't know how important, ignorance is bliss. And it really was bliss for this job because I didn't know. And there was always talk about like, you were hired because you look like her and whatever. And Erika really wonderfully one day pulled me aside and was like, I hope you know that's not why you're here. You're here because you're really great and wonderful and you do a wonderful job. She really she made an effort to make sure that I felt special and that I was doing well and that it wasn't just like typecasting and I earned it and I, was doing good work and
that you were her daughter.
and I was her daughter and I was like, so like Erin is and will always be, was very special to her, but I was special in a different way. And it actually, like the break happened at this wonderful moment in Jessica's life, the character, because, Erin left right when, she was grown up and she was an adult and she had a pregnancy, but like, there was like a life split. It was like you know what I mean? Like I think it made sense because people never looked at me like I was a kid because nobody saw me grow up. I was the different actor. So they could really bring me in as an adult and Jessica was able to have like her adult life, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. She just was, we're saying was, and the was is because I don't see her every day anymore. But she is an amazing, wonderful lady who worked really hard to make me feel loved and accepted very quickly. And went over and everybody should be nice to everybody else, but she went over and beyond many times with me throughout my time at One Life and really.
Yeah, she got to have me fired.
What?
What'd you say?
Her first day working with her, she tried to like save her self-esteem. My first day working with Erika, she tried to have me fired. But then she tried to like stop them from firing me when they actually did. She's awesome. She's awesome.
So do you guys have a favorite story during your time there? And I don't want to say the death stuff because I'm sure that was pretty powerful stuff to play, but I'll ask about that later. But a favorite story before that?
A favorite story
together, storyline.
My favorite from this test stuff. Listen, and they tried to they kept Tess around after Nash was gone, and I was grateful because she was really fun to play. But there was no better time than when it was Tess and Nash. Like it just was that it just worked. Like it really it just was like that was the time where it was like they couldn't. I don't like. Listen. I love David Gregory and like everybody that they tried, but it just didn't work. And it's nothing against them, but this is the time that
certain things just click.
Yeah. And there was I don't think there was any like that. That's the story that I loved for me.
Forbes?
Yeah, the whole Tess and Nash thing was all right, but there was the storyline with Layla that I just
He always has to do a dig, right? He always has to dig at me. I'm all vulnerable. Like, I love Forbes most. And he's like, yeah, well, whatever.
I don't know what happened to your light.
What did you do there? The witch just like blew darkness my way.
It's like a storm was coming in over there.
I know.
Yeah, you're getting dark.
Literally what happened was a big black cloud just rolled over the hill behind me.
Be nice and the sun will come back out.
She does that. She just casts darkness in my general direction.
That's funny. Bree Jacarius, one of our fans, was asking if you can share memories of working with Melissa as your sister.
Yes, of course. I worked with her tons. It's funny, during COVID, I was doing like little posts during like the beginning of COVID about like, just COVID posts. And one was when I locked Melissa in the glass room. And, I was like, thanks, or you're welcome, Melissa. So that was really fun. Melissa and I, again, we worked together so much and we were like sisters and like, we would have like little dinners together. I taught Melissa how to like tomatoes. I'll take credit for that. like vegetables for a hot second. I feel like I should take credit for getting her to like vegetables.
I didn't like tomatoes early on either, so I get that.
I remember taking her to a restaurant and it was an heirloom cheese salad, and she was putting aside the heirloom tomatoes, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I can't let you do that. Like, you're gonna have to at least, like, she was like my child. I'm like, you're gonna have to take one bite, and if you don't like it, you don't have to eat it, but it's an heirloom delicious tomato, you're gonna have to eat it. It was very funny, but she was great. I'm very lucky that she was my sister on One Life. She's just really easy to be around, and she loves everybody, and she's funny and sweet and great. So I'm very, very lucky that she was my sister. Not intimidating, very welcoming. Like day one when I got there, she was like, hey, come in. Yeah, like very wonderful lady. So I'm very lucky.
That's awesome. It's always good to have that.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the biggest prankster besides this guy? Forbes, who is the biggest prankster besides yourself?
I was a prankster?
I don't know. You seem like you might have a little of that in you.
They don't support
prankster. I'm just an a-hole. That's my thing.
He's playful.
I just like getting underneath Bree's skin. That's all. I don't prank her necessarily. Who's the big prankster on set? There's
Bob Woods.
Yeah.
Woods.
I was waiting for that.
And when I did, it was tense. I think he's always kind of in character, and so his character did not like my character. Became friends off camera towards the end, but towards the end we stopped working together. But I heard he was awesome to work with. What about Dan Gauthier? Wasn't he a bit of a...
Oh man, Dan Gauthier and Trevor St. John, when I was in scenes with them, I remember there was one, and it's so bad. I think it was like a funeral scene, and they started laughing, and it wasn't a funeral scene, like we were all in a circle holding candles, and something was going on because somebody died, and somebody said something, and that was it. I think we had to break for lunch because we couldn't stop laughing. And I again, I'm even getting sweaty now thinking about it, because I would look like I'd have to make eye contact with Dan and say something, and then I couldn't I'd have to like look down or look somewhere else. And my husband, like some of these times these things would make it to air, and Michael would call me, my husband calls me Seinfeld, because if you've ever watched the TV show Seinfeld, Jerry Seinfeld for most of the entire series tries not to laugh. Like he like has a smirk because he's like this. And
Yeah.
So he called me Seinfeld because he's like, Bree, you're like laughing. And I'm like, I know. Trevor's standing right over there. And it was the worst when it was Tess and Todd, when Trevor was Todd. And because he would just like do stuff to me, like throw stuff at me in the scene. And I'd be like, and we were at the end of the day and we'd have to keep on going because I would want to laugh. And so Trevor and Dan were pretty bad too. It was hard to be in scenes with them and be serious.
That's so funny. So both of you are back in school. Tell us what you're going to school for. Forbes? What are you not going to school for?
Let's see. History, English, biology, psychology, economics, English, French, German, ancient history. I'm an economics major. A few years ago, I run a business and I was having a hard time managing guys. And I went to school to take some management courses to see if there was something I could learn about how to do this better. And discovered there isn't necessarily. It's just a tough place I'm in. But I mean, tough geographic population wise. But I took an economics course and it was amazing. I read literally the first page of the textbook and it was just like, what? Other people actually think this way. So now I'm this huge political econ geek, and I'm trying to do it in a way that'll open the door either to do law or medicine, which is weird to go from economics to medicine, but whatever. When I'm done, which should technically be in like one more semester. I'm like 47 years old. And last year I was a sophomore.
It's impressive. I couldn't do it. Will you still keep your business?
I do.
But I mean, you will keep it when you're out like if you went for law, I mean, you still want to keep the business.
I'd like to. I mean, the thing is, I thought I was going to be running this thing for like 6 months. I thought I'd find someone who could run it for me. And I've been through about 10 people who I thought could take over the business. I got really close a year ago. I spent 2 years training this guy. I built him a home out on my property. He took it over. A few weeks were good. I moved my family back down to the city. I enrolled at school in the city. I was sitting in classrooms in my dream school. Couldn't believe it. And then he went back to the heroin, which is so prevalent up here. But now I've got another guy I'm super hopeful about.
Tell us about New York Firewood. But one of our fans, Justin, I asked people to submit questions, and Justin wanted to know if you had an opening at New York Firewood.
Turn up, bring gloves.
So what is it? What is the company?
I keep talking we like it's this huge company. We at the New York Firewood Company have a sales division which specializes in specialty firewood, providing a fuel wood to restaurants. We sell firewood to restaurants in New York, but it is kind of a specialty wood. These restaurants that cook with wood, they can't just turn the dial to change the temperature. The only way they can change the temperature of their oven is by changing the species, split diameter, or moisture content of the wood. We do that for them. We can provide wood of different split diameter, species, or moisture contents to meet their cooking needs.
So were you affected by the pandemic then?
Oh, enormously. I mean, I sell stuff to restaurants in New York City. Yeah. I lost 90% of my business. It took me 12 years to build in 4 hours. That was upsetting. I just invested in a lot of new equipment, and I thought I was done. But this is my third pandemic now. We in the Western world have short memories. I was in Toronto, as was Bree, I think, during SARS. The biggest concert in rock and roll history was our way of reacting to that. Probably not wise under today's standards. Remember that? I mean, what the hell were we thinking? What were we thinking? I was front row of course I was. AC/DC, you kidding me? I was anyway. I was in Montreal during the meningitis outbreak, and now I'm in New York during COVID. So I just, it's also my fifth economic collapse. When I was 18, I lived in I was raised in Nova Scotia, eastern seaboard of Canada. My family are not fishermen, but our economy is 100% dependent on fishing. With literally 8 hours notice, the government turned off the fishing industry. My entire, quarter of Canada was immediately unemployed. And that was the year I graduated high school. So my entire graduating class emigrated to 5,000 miles away to Vancouver to look for work and opportunity. And it led to the grunge movement. It was pretty awesome. I was in Vancouver during grunge. And then I had the housing crash and the tech crash. We've had the oil recession. We forget. These things happen. But every time these things have happened, I personally and we as a society have accelerated out of that. I just tried to focus on that every time there's been a major collapse, a major disaster in my life, like One Life to Live, that to me was even though I kind of wanted off the show when it actually happened, I was really upset. It was really traumatic to me. I don't know why. Maybe Bree, I missed you. But every time something horrible happens in my life like that, as long as I'm not directly affected, like my family survives and I survive, literally health-wise, then we as a society and I personally accelerate out of it. I just tried to focus on that. As it happened, my business came back. We pivoted to some other business and we've survived. But yeah, I mean, I'm surrounded. My friends now are my customers. I have people I've been serving weekly for on a biweekly basis for 10 years now. They're my friends, and they're losing businesses that they've been working at for 20, 30 years to build this business. And in the matter of literally, a day, they were wiped out.
So, Bree, what are you going to school for?
It's funny. I'm going to say something that Forbes says in a different way. Yeah. So I've been very lucky that COVID has not ruined any sort of momentum. So I went back to school. I made the decision
to get your master's, right? You got a master's.
I got my master's. So I completed. I was super lucky when they hired me for One Life. The second time, my second screen test they called me for, I had graduated U of T and I was done. So I was able to get my BA in before I got a pull or a call, because I don't know if I would have completed school. So I'm very grateful that I did. And then, you turn late 30s in your acting career, and it just kind of all started to slow down, and I wasn't feeling happy. And I was just kind of like, something's missing. I'm not busy enough. I'm not doing what I want to do. And then I went on like some soul searching, and I was like, well, where was I when I was happy? And what did I really want my life to be at? And then before I acted, I said I was at school, women's studies and psychology. So I found this, so I was really scared about investing money to get my master's and go into school and being like I'm 41 now. I was like almost 40 when I started, like 38 or 39. I can't remember. I'm not that much younger than you. I'm 41. Like I'm gaining on you. So then I had to like write my entrance essay, and I had to go to school, and it was just really scary. So I went and there's this great school in California, Antioch University. It's a social justice school. They had like a master's program in psychology, go into your classes, and now I have clients. I'm graduated. I completed in December, and I work at a community center here, and I'm getting hours, and I was just hired at another community center, and it's all going to be built up to eventually have my private practice here in.
Really inspiring, both of you. I mean, I don't know that I could, I've thought about it, but I don't know that I could really do it. I mean, that's a lot of studying. Bravo.
You can, you should, everyone should. Seriously, man, it's amazing. It is amazing going back. It is so much easier. I mean,
I don't agree. It was hard. It was hard. I had my son, and it was a little hard to balance, and it was hard to visualize, because I also shot a couple movies, and like I can't miss class, and like it's funny how like the acting thing can understand and like be flexible, and you have to, we have to bend for this, and like school is like, lady, I don't care if you're on set. Class is at this time, and I was like, yeah, you're right. I will have to figure it out. And there was one night where like I was shooting a film in Toronto, and I didn't sleep, and the flight was delayed, and I was with my son, and I was bawling my eyes out because I wasn't going to make it to this class. And the teacher took pity on me, and I was able to continue. But it was very.
Yeah. When you're 18, you got nothing to do but go to the bar or go to class or do
it. Yeah, it becomes you do have to work around things. A lot of fans are asking, if you had the opportunity to work together again, would you love that? And if there was a One Life to Live reboot, would you be interested?
Yes, I would probably work with Forbes again. Absolutely.
See that look she gives? See that blank look with the big eyes?
I gave it because I was like, why?
That's your poker face. It doesn't say saying, I know that. I remember it's been a while, but I'm on to you. I never forgot you. There. See that thing
like, I'm gonna let Bree speak first.
I'm going to interrupt. One of our fans, Lisa, was asking, Bree, are you going to be a psychologist, psychiatrist, or counselor?
I am a marriage and family therapist. So to be a psychologist, you have to go and get your PhD, which I considered, and I'm still considering. It's just very expensive. Sorry that Bernie didn't make it farther and make my school a little cheaper, but it's very, very expensive, and it's a lot of work. And I wanted to I wanted to actually do what I wanted to do. And because if you become a psychologist and get your PhD, that means that I would like write papers and do research, and that part of the business I'm not really interested in. So yes, I will be a marriage and family therapist.
I would say that marriage and family therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, all of that are probably booming, sadly, because of what we're all living through right now. Yeah, I can believe that. Can you talk about well, one of our fans, let me find his name 1 second. He was asking about James. Did you know that the character of Nash in time would be killed off, or did that just come about?
No, I was really surprised by that. I thought they'd send him off. Bree just really eloquently expressed how I was feeling when I left. That I wasn't happy with what was going on, and I was trying to remember what made me happy, and there was something missing, and I really wanted to go off and find myself, go off and do something else for a while. And I actually called for a meeting with Frank. I came up with a pitch to write Nash out of the show, but it seemed to me that it was a successful character, and I'd played enough characters to know that successful characters don't come along that often or that easily. I didn't want to lose that, have that in my pocket. I just assumed that the show wouldn't want to get rid of that either. I mean, yeah, I know they got a lot out of killing him. They got a lot of story, but the odds of coming up with a successful character are so low. They and we go through so many characters before you find something that clicks. I went in there to pitch writing Nash out to let me take off for a couple of years and go be Forbes. And I got halfway through my pitch, and Frank was like, "Listen, Forbes, I got some potentially good news for you, but we've decided to kill Nash off." I was like, "What? No, no. Yeah, I got this whole thing. You're going to send him over to here. He's going to go there. Then he's going to come back to all my children because it turns out that he's actually Scott Chandler and yada, yada, yada." I had this whole thing worked out. Fandom. But no, they decided to kill him, and I was surprised by that.
And when you first got those scripts, Bree, were you nervous, excited?
Remember when I told you?
Honesty.
Good moment.
Are you ready for some honesty? So Forbes and I were bickering on set, as we do, and I think that I gave him some crap about something.
Calling me out for being negative.
Yes, I was really, really, really I was really
me another one.
Yeah,
because when you were shooting his death scene, or
we were in the diner, in the booth. What? I didn't know. I didn't know. So we're in the diner in a booth. Forbes was sitting here. I think Justice and David Famero was sitting across from me. And Forbes was sitting here, and he was like on a rant. And I was in a mood, and I was like, "Stop being so negative." And his head whipped around, and he was like, "Well, I'm fired," and blah, blah. And I was like, "Ooh." And Justice was like, "Ooh." And David was like, "Ooh." And we were like,
got to a break. They sent everybody off for coffee.
And so that's what happened. And
that's how you found out.
Yes. And so, and as we do, we bickered like an old married couple, and he was, making me mad, and I told him, and he put me in my place. So that's how I found out. I was hoping, because Roscoe came back and he dug up Nash's grave for a moment, and there was a secret guy in Llaneview that was hanging around. I was really hoping, and secretly, I don't even think Forbes knows this, I was pushing and asking, I was like, is it going to be Forbes? Can we have Forbes? Is this going to happen? And pushing, and they said, for some reason, whatever reason, it was announced.
Hoping I'd come back? Really? Did I catch that right? Did we just have a thing?
Yeah,
you had a thing. You had a thing right here.
I'm sure do that.
If you ever do work again and you're bawling me out and doing your thing and I'm doing my thing, I'm going to pull this out. This is going to be my new put you in your place. Remember the moment you admitted that you liked working with me? Remember this moment?
Put it in your pocket for later. Okay?
I mean, and it is, it is a soap opera, so it could have been him in the grave.
I was really surprised.
You liked working with me.
I did. I've been totally honest, and I can't say that about everybody, and I'm not going to go there. But it was. I'm very honest.
Well,
I love working with.
I mean, you can't make that. You can't make that magic work if you really truly hate each other. I don't.
Sure, you can.
I don't know. You can see.
We didn't talk to each other. What was the longest we had our relationship off camera was like the one on camera, but more exaggerated.
Mm-hmm. There were 2 weeks where I'd come in and I'd walk into makeup.
6 weeks. She didn't even say good morning to me for 6 weeks at one point, and then we became friends again.
Wasn't 6 weeks.
I assume you're friends now since you agreed to do this.
No, I couldn't pull off.
What was the shooting the death scene like? I mean, more definitely harder on you, Bree.
No, I think it was hard on Forbes.
I'm just saying, but the material was hard. You had.
I think
Bree does really well with hard material. Hard material is easy for Bree. The easy material is more challenging because you got to try and figure out. An actor in general has to figure out how to make it interesting.
Mm-hmm.
She had some good material. She knocked it out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
She certainly did. I said I watched it the other day. I'm glad I didn't decide to watch it before this show because I'd have puffy eyes.
The whole sequence was good. I think that I was like watching on YouTube, and when Forbes, the wagging the finger at Melissa, and then he goes over, and then he falls, and then the yellow dress that I had to sit in for like freaking weeks, and like I sweat because I was crying, and then like it had blood on it, and it was it was hard. I remember there was a choice that I had to make, and I think I surprised everyone when because I had someone really close to me die a little while before that. And when I think it was Chris Stack that was playing the doctor at the time told me that that Nash was going to die, I screamed a little at that point, and like that was a very for me, my reaction when I found out. I was like, oh, this feels very real, and it felt like an honest reaction, and so that kind of was like boop, and then it just goes. And then I remember the director at the time wanted to take a 5 in the middle of it, like everybody's like there and in it, and the set's really quiet, and he's like, so we're gonna take a 5, and I was like,
hold that, perfect, beautiful, just hold that moment, hold it, we're gonna go for lunch.
I think what he did, I think that's what he tried to do. I think Erika was there and she was like, no,
you're not. Yeah.
We're gonna keep on going, we're gonna continue with this.
I mean, that's hard, right in the middle of it. Forbes, I have a great story. A friend of mine, when he heard that he's a big One Life to Live fan, when I told him we were doing the show, Tom, he said he was super drunk at his office, and after the bars closed, he got online and bought Nash's gravestone on auction for $50. And then the next day, he couldn't remember who he bought it from or find the link. And he doesn't really remember any of it. He just was sort of wasted in his office making a, late night purchase. That's a good story.
No drunken eBay.
Yeah, drunken eBay could be dangerous for people. Bree Maybeth was asking, what was Roscoe like?
Intense. I had like a really nice special relationship with him. There was this, he was an intense guy, but him and I really.
One Life had a bit of, there were great actors, but Roger and then Trevor, right?
Yeah, Trevor are you saying that like intense?
Intense.
Well, Roscoe was a different kind of intense because I think that he just got really bogged down. I think it's really tricky to be on all the soaps as the villain, and I think that's really there was and I think that if he was still alive, he would be honest that he struggled with mental health well, but I feel like he was a really I was very lucky with him because all of his negative, like, and if there was any sort of, I got the good Roscoe, like he was always wonderful, and like it was nothing but like play and like exploration and like fun, and like he was always wonderful to me. So I was really lucky. And I think it's funny when you play a role like Jessica on a show that's like the beloved character, that's I was very lucky that a lot of my interactions were positive based on the fact that I played that character. So Roscoe came, and whenever he came back, it was always great for me. I always enjoyed having him back. And, you know, we would have lunch together sometimes, and he was just, he has like stories, and he would like write songs, and he was just like a really interesting, wonderful, like deep man. So yeah.
He walked off set to go be a musician?
He was the one that they took a 5, and he said, I'm going to get a coffee. And I think it was on All My Children, and he never came back.
He said, I'm going to Nashville. I'm not coming, and walked out. Yeah.
Which also, like, that's a cool dude. Like, cause like,
that's a cool dude.
That's a little Jimmy Dean, isn't it?
When you're an actor, there are like like every day it's like, am I getting fired? What's happening? Am I getting fired? Frank didn't make eye contact with me. Am I getting fired? Are they going to write me off? What's happening? Like, you know, like there's that kind of like.
do you want to? This is a really great story. I don't think you'll know who this actress is. She's passed away many years ago. Her name is Beverly McKinsey, one of the best actresses ever in daytime. She was on Guiding Light in Another World, and she was on Guiding Light. Shot her last scene of the day, went up to the crew, and basically said goodbye. She had a contract, but in her contract, she had an out, and she timed it to that moment and just walked off and said goodbye to everybody. They did not know she was leaving the show.
It's pretty intense.
She paid attention to her contract, knew she didn't, you know, and she left. It was like the biggest thing. Like it was, wow. I mean, you know.
I think most actors are just on the other side of that line most of the time on shows. It's tough. It's a psychological. It's a lot of,
especially when you work as hard as you do. I mean, you know, people don't realize, like you said, when you first got together, you guys were the A story. Set 50 to 70 pages a day. Well, for some people it can be.
I've had some tough jobs. I mean, there are people with tough jobs. I work 20-hour days out here, 7 days a week for months. This job has brought me to my knees, literally praying to a God I didn't think I believed in for mercy to get me back to life. There are tough jobs out there.
Right.
And acting is not one of them by most measures. But at the same time, as simple a job as it is, hit your mark, say your line, what time is lunch? Thank you so much for my mid-6 salary. I'm heading off to Costa Rica for 2 weeks. On paper, it's an amazingly fabulous job. On set, you have to have a particular psychological makeup to not be running on the line of insanity all the time. And there are some people who pull it off. Jerry Verdorn comes in, goes to work, goes home, no problem. You know, Erika Slezak comes in, goes to work, goes home. There's like, it's like survival of the sanest in there. You know, those
survival of the sanest. I love. That's a great.
Really, and I agree with Forbes. I don't think that acting is necessarily a hard job. It's everything that goes along with acting. It's the auditioning that makes it hard. It's the, you know, when you have a soap job and you're on and you're like, you know, playing Jessica Buchanan, I don't think that it was hard. Like it was never like, I mean, I had hard times and like I had a lot of lines to memorize and I had responsibility to like, you know, to my castmates and to, you know, the show to be there on time and show up and do a good job. But like, I don't like that of my acting career. I don't think my one life journey was hard. It's the, when it ends and it's like, you go and audition and it's no, like do a screen test and that's, and when cause I taught.
And no is merciful. Some of the feedback is just like.
I taught at an acting school here in LA, Leslie Kahn, for a little while. And I think that I'm still a coach with them. But yes, it's a wonderful acting school. But I would sit in a room with actors all the time. And the stories of like, you know, and there's even like, there's this great show called Better Things, Pamela Adlon's show, where like, it's about her acting career. And there's one episode where like the entire time, like she is going to be behind the scenes, the next big thing, and all of her people and managers and whatever are all talking about it. And she has no idea that this whole conversation about her is happening. And she was that close to getting this job. And she just is going along with her day and being with her kids and whatever. So it's like, which is why now I am a marriage and family therapist, because my boyfriend acting is intense, and I loved my job, and I was grateful, and I loved I really, even the bad moments in One Life I loved, and even my jobs here in LA that I got, even the bad moments and the hard moments, I was like, I love, this is great, I'm super happy to be here. But it was the struggle of sometimes the struggle of auditioning in the next job. You have to really love being an actor. You have to be almost like psychotically in love with it to continue. That's my PSA. Sorry to crush everyone's dream.
you have a 10-year-old McGregor, right?
I do.
Right. And Forbes, how many?
They're everywhere. I got a 21-year-old who's also a woman's study thing. Just graduated this year, and she's getting ready to move to Brooklyn and do. It's her turn. Do that. Then I have a 14-year-old son, and I have this little 2-year-old surprise. Who's just waking up, who popped out unexpectedly. We thought Vanessa might have, my wife. She thought she had leukemia. She was convinced she had leukemia. She was dying. This is the end. I need to make plans. And
she was pregnant.
The sort of woman I can date when she dies. For her children, basically none. And she's going in for testing for leukemia. I mean, this is such a cliche. And I'm like, looking at my friends. I'm like, my wife thinks she's got leukemia. What do you want to bet? What do you want to bet? She got the test, and she was pregnant. If it was a boy, we were going to call him Luke for leukemia.
Speaking of Luke, what was your experience like on As the World Turns?
Took Bree a beat there. She got it.
I'm actually still reeling that Peter's 14.
Yeah.
And Marina's 21. I'm like, whoa, they're old.
Yeah,
old.
time goes.
One kid knows me as actor Forbes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like she was, her thing was charging people on the streets of New York to hold the camera and take a picture with her daddy. And her first memories are coming to Disneyland for Super Soap and not having to go in the lineups. And then my second child, my son, has no memories of me as actor Forbes. All of his memories are of me running a very tough boots in the mud business in the country. And we'll see what my third kid remembers me as. But it's my son has no knowledge of any of what we're talking about. He doesn't know.
The third child, it might be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Could be defending. Could be defending somebody. What do you think you've learned about yourselves during this pandemic that you didn't already know?
That I can make do with a lot less.
Okay, that's great. Mm-hmm. Forbes?
It's so easy.
Oh, well, don't crap on his question, Forbes.
No, not the question. My answers. I try to think of an interesting way of not sounding like a total harp. I think a lot of us spent a lot of time thinking, and I realized, I finally remembered what I had forgotten 14 years ago when I was in my 30s and left acting. What I wanted to be relevant. When I was younger, that was my thing, and I wanted to be relevant for having contributed in some way. And I lost that along the way, and I remembered that during COVID. As soon as COVID started, my instinct was to help, and I remembered that was my thing when I was younger. Some people would say I have a savior complex. I've been accused of that recently. I don't know why that's supposed to be insulting. What really makes me happy is knowing that I have helped someone in need. I wasn't able to help in COVID. My son is susceptible. My wife told me I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. But it brought focus on the fact that what I really want to do, what's important to me, is of being service to my community. I have a very strange relationship with people. I don't do well with people. I don't like people, but I really like helping people. It's weird. And that's what I hope to do with the rest of my life. That's what I've been working towards with this education. I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't want to, I mean, yes, I want to be a lawyer, but I want to be a lawyer because with economics, it's all part of a plan. I want to work on some policies that I feel strongly about that help some people. There's some. I'm into politics. There's some political policies that I think could be worked on that I'd like to work on.
You'd like to change them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a great way to end. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome. Have a great weekend.
What?
You like working with him, he said.
He's like equal parts, like, you know, he's saying this like beautiful, I want to work on politics and I want to change the world and whatever. And I mean, how hard is it to work with somebody who's like, I don't do well with people and I don't like people. And I'm the opposite. I got into psychology because if anything, it's made me love people more because like I get to find out like, you know, why is that person being a dick? And I'm like, ooh, I get to like dig in and, you know, it's so, yeah, whatever. So that opposites attract,
well,
right?
But you both want to help people in different ways.
Mm-hmm. 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 Look at us.
Look. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Great
seeing you.
Bye, Bree. Thanks for joining me today, everybody. Thanks, Forbes. Thanks, Bree. Have a great weekend. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so right below and put on the notification so you find out when the next show is. Have a great weekend, everybody. And I'll see you next week.